Hi there everyone, I'm Fionuala. I'm in Zone 9B gardening here in beautiful Petaluma, and I spent all day in my garden yesterday and figured this is what I want to show you today because it is looking quite amazing. So let's start with this amazing creature right behind me. This is Millanthus Major, also called honeybush or giant honeyflower, and it is absolutely thriving outside my deer fence for a couple of reasons. One, deer don't eat it, which is amazing. Gophers don't eat it either, and it's super drought tolerant. No water happened along this side of the fence, and look how fabulous this plant is. One of the best things about it, though, is those blooms are full of nectar. Hummingbirds love it, and orioles love it. You never see orioles around here unless this is blooming, and they are super shy birds, so I'm sure we're not going to see any today. But apart from Millanthus Major, I have a whole bunch of other really great things to show you. So come on, follow me. We'll go through the dragonfly gate, and look. My geranium madarenses, my beautiful ginormous geraniums from Madeira, are getting towards the end of their bloom period, and the seed heads are beginning to start, which I love. They self-seed so readily, and I just pick and choose what I want to stay. Here's another amazing plant that decided to put itself right here. This is an Echium, and it's a hybrid of the Taginaste variety. Beautiful blue blooms. Bees love it. It did put itself in a very strange spot, so we have to duck under to get to the next plant I want to show you. I am all about pollinators, all about hummingbirds, and this fabulous little Kufia has not stopped blooming at all since I planted it about a year and a half ago. It is extraordinary. Pretty drought tolerant, likes the sun. The flowering tobaccos have grown up all around it, but it doesn't seem to get bothered by that at all. So yeah, those are three of my absolute favorite plants in my garden, and we haven't gone more than 20 feet inside the gate. But let's keep going. I planted these beautiful little geums, Double Bloody Mary, quite recently, and again, full of buds, full of blooms, very happy where I put them. They get some shade, but a lot of sun all afternoon long, and they're really, really happy. And I don't know, snapdragons, very simple flowers, but they just make you smile and make fabulous cut flowers. This bed, this whole bed here is a work in progress. It's a pretty new area for me. I just built this wall last year. So I'm still getting to know exactly what should happen in here. I've tried a few different things. Obviously the snapdragons were one of those trials. And I'm seeing who's happy and who isn't. And that's going to help me decide what to do next year. Now this rose right here is an old rose. It's called Dortmund. It's one of the parents of Altissimo, a very bright red. I think there's one bloom up there, blooming away, but in a couple of weeks it's going to be on fire with blooms. Absolutely love this. But something I really have to draw your attention to, look at this incredible little clematis. This is actually Vivian Panel. It's supposed to be 8 or 10 feet tall. Obviously it isn't. It's supposed to be incredibly double, but these blooms are blooming on new wood, so the new wood blooms are more of a single. The old wood blooms are really, really double. But I just am so blown away about the resilience of this particular clematis. It's planted right here. It survived the rebuild of that wall back there. It gets more sun than probably it should. Obviously a ton of root competition with this fabulous, robust rose that's growing up and over it. But every year it throws out a bunch of blooms, and I've never ever seen it bloom quite this much. I'll stand up. It can't be more than 3 feet tall, and there are 6 blooms on it and a couple more buds on the way. I mean, isn't that incredible? Something else about pollinators and self-seeding. California poppies are absolutely a favorite of local pollinators. So I always make sure when I'm weeding that I leave them, even if they're in the middle of the path, like this guy over here, because I want to do what I can for all the pollinators. Almost everything I have in my garden is for birds or pollinators or hummingbirds or me. It's kind of a foraging garden too. Let me show you the almond tree and how happy it is this year. Speaking of foraging, it's a funny little tree. It's kind of leaning away from the oak tree that's grown up and over it, but it's amazingly productive. And if you've never grown your own almonds, you really got to try it. They do so well here in Zone 9, 9B, where I am, that I just love this. This year is an incredible year for almonds. I just am in awe of how many there are up here this year. This brings me to one of my favorite roses in the garden is Madame Pierre O. It's an old bourbon rose developed in the 1840s, and it's just stunning. I mean, look at the cupping on that one. It is really amazing. And every single big bloom like this seems to have 2 or 3 buds around it. So it's, you know, there's a lot going on for this. But one of the most special things about it is that it was a gift from my parents when they visited maybe 20 years ago. One of the first roses I ever grew. So I love it for that. It's one of my first roses. My parents gave it to me. They have both since passed away, but every year when this blooms, I am reminded of their visit, their love of gardening, my dad's love of roses, and it's just a really special one for me. So, yeah. Hey, talk about pollinators and self-seeding. This here is Borage, another wonderful little plant that grows itself wherever it feels like, and honestly, it's never picked a bad spot. And if it was a little bit warmer than it is right now, you would see it covered in bees. Bees don't particularly like to come out unless it's 55 degrees or warmer than that. And today's kind of chilly. End of April, but it is kind of chilly. This brings me to another plant that has just never stopped blooming. I'm going to do a little weeding while I'm here. This is Bindweed. It loves this particular bed, and I seem to spend an awful lot of time weeding it out of here. But this lavender, it's called Ladiva Imperial, and it's a dentata hybrid. You see these leaves right here? Dentata is toothy, and you can see it's a dentata by those toothy little leaves right there. But Ladiva Imperial, another one of these plants in my garden that has not stopped blooming since I planted it here. And the bees love it. I reckon it's got to be 52 degrees. There's hardly any honeybees out, and they really only come out over 55. I do see a couple of bumblebees. They tend to come out a little cooler than the honeybees. So we'll see them. If it warms up, we'll spot them. And here's that David Austin that I planted 3-4 videos ago. You can see it's budding up. It's very happy where I put it. It is almost time to start training it upwards. I'm just kind of letting it go a little bit so I can see where the really strong canes are, and then I'm going to start tying it up. I cannot wait to see that when it's in full bloom. All right, over here, this is my very sorry looking apricot tree. I just have to show you. It's been struggling for quite some time. I threatened to cut it down this year, and for once in literally the last 5 years, there are apricots on it. I can't believe it. It must have heard me threaten it, And this year it's pushing out a bunch of apricots. I'm really happy. I think honestly it's more to do with the really hard pruning I gave it rather than the threats, but you just never know. Down here we've got Pincushion Flower, or scabiosa. This is a wonderful perennial that just keeps on giving. It spreads slowly. There was one plant I planted over there maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and it is spread slowly down here, and it is such a reliable bloomer and tough as can be. I absolutely love this one too. Oh, got to show you one more thing. Another standout in the garden right now. Come on over this way. Look at this. This is a Onium. It's a hybridized in my garden. I'm not 100% sure which variety it is, but it's related to Cyclops. And it sent up this huge, oh, here's a bee. Here's a bee, honeybee. Gotta be 55 degrees when the sun comes out. Honeybees love it, pollinators love it. The flower head is just traffic stopping. I don't know how to describe it. Like, how would you describe this flower head? It is yellow, kind of cone-shaped, billions of little flowers on it, 4 months, and it just makes me smile every time I see it. And here's my little Suckle Pear, which is as cute as can be and highly productive. You can just see the little pears beginning right there. It is really tasty and always a challenge every single year to get to the pears before the blue jays do. And that's one of the reasons I've kept it small. I've pruned it as low as possible so that I can get the bird netting over it and make sure that I get some pears before the birds do. I have little water features gathered here and there for the birds, basically, but there's also a frog who lives up here, and it's really cool in the evening to hear him or her croaking away, making noise. I also have a whole colony of lizards. Quite often they're over here, but I'm not seeing them today. They're in charge of bug patrol, but they live in this stone wall here. Any of these gaps on a sunny afternoon, you're going to see some lizard escaping in there. As you can see, the lilacs are still blooming, but they're coming towards the end of their bloom period, which means pretty soon it's going to be time to prune them. Not yet though. I still stand under there and inhale. It's just such a great fragrance. And over here I've got a salvia that is called Hot Lips, but it seems to have reverted a little bit and is mostly throwing just red flowers. I don't mind at all, and the hummingbirds adore it, absolutely adore it. This brings us to this section of my garden, which is both ornamental and edible. This is my Lowquat tree. It's not producing as many fruit this year as it has in the past, but every single one of them I'm very grateful for. If you've never tried a Lowquat, it's one of those strange tastes that looks like it should taste like an apricot, but it probably tastes a little bit more like a melon. Interesting texture as well. I love sticking it in salads, to be honest, I really do. And this tree is needing to be brought up and thinned out a little bit. But in the meantime, I'm really enjoying its evergreen beauty, and oh, there's so many fruit up there. It's going to be so great. Another one I got to get to ahead of the blue jays. And over here I have a fig that I am not even sure which one it is. One of those ones that did not have a label on it, so I took it home, but it is so tasty. Doesn't look like it's going to be very productive this year, but last year it was amazing. And here's another one of my water features. I made this one about 8 or 9 years ago, and finches absolutely love it. Oh, here's another fig. This is Vleta Bordeaux. It's a great variety to have in a container. I've got a really big container for it. And one thing I've noticed that it's really so happy in that container that its roots filled up the hole. A couple of years ago, the roots filled up the hole in the bottom of the container. I had to drill a couple of extra holes in there just to make sure the pot could drain. And it sprung right back. This is my lemon verbena. Every year it looks like it's going to die off completely and really never return to life at all, but nope, it's going to do fine. I wait to see what's alive, what's dead, and then I trim off the dead twigs. So that's another job for the next week or two. As you can see, my big, ginormous geraniums have wandered over to this part of the garden, which is totally a jungle right now. A couple of weeks ago, somebody told me about the term chaos garden, and I embraced that one. I was way ahead of the chaos garden curve. This is definitely a chaos garden, but it makes me incredibly happy. You never know what you're going to find every corner that you go around. So here, obviously, the Geranium matarenses are a little out of hand. I always wait and see who I'm going to let live and who I'm going to weed out. But I love the ferny foliage, and talk about low maintenance. Really all you have to do is weed. Planted up a dahlia a couple of weeks ago in this container, and it's sprouting and looking great. And I think I'm just going to let it grow a little bit more before I move it to its permanent spot. Right here we've got a work in progress, yet another one. Last year this is where I grew my vegetable garden, the tomatoes, the peppers, the lettuce, the greens. But unfortunately, the birds really discovered it, and any green of any description, lettuce, spinach, kale, anything, the sparrows would flock to it, eat everything. So I came up with a different plan. I'll show you that in a second. And so this year, what I'm going to do right now is absolutely nothing for a minute, but then what I'll do is refresh all of the soil. I'm going to empty all of the containers out, get brand new fresh soil in there, because this is the sunniest part of my property that's safe from deer, safe from gophers, because I'm growing it in a container. And I'm going to do my tomatoes and peppers in here again. Birds tend to not eat the tomatoes or peppers when they're little. And really, it's still kind of a little early to be planting tomatoes and peppers, just because the weather is cold and chilly and the bees aren't even out. And the soil is still a little bit chilly. So probably in the next 2 weeks or so, dump all this soil out, brand new fresh soil in, and pick out my favorite tomatoes and get them planted. Some of the tomatoes I can never do without: Bloody Butcher, Snow White for cherry, that's that little lemon yellow cherry. I absolutely love Paul Robeson and Cherokee Purple. And for yellow, there's this really great yellow orange called Orange You Glad that just works fabulously in my garden. So that's what I'm going to be doing. As for peppers, Escamillo and Jimmy Nardello. I like sweet peppers. I can't really tolerate much heat, so I always try and I end up, crying, so I can't really do them. I love my sweet peppers, the Escamillo and Jimmy Nardello. I've got apple trees as well. I've got 4 different apple trees along here, and I love them. They're really productive. Again, prune them low so that I can protect them. They have just finished blooming. This one hasn't quite finished blooming. That one's got a bunch of little baby apples on it. And yeah, this will be a lot tidier for the next visit. Here's my peace rose. Something I have noticed in the last day or two is that I've got aphids, which is really annoying. So I'm going to start by spraying them with a jet of water. If that doesn't remove them entirely, well, obviously I'm starting by squishing. First squish, then a jet of water. And if that doesn't work, they're going to get a dose of safer soap. I like this peace rose as well for sentimental reasons. This bud is not looking gorgeous, but when it's happy and it's healthy, they're enormous roses. But this is the one that way back in the late 50s, when my mom left Ireland and came to America in 1958, I think it was, she would write to her dad, and they both loved their roses. And she would write to her dad back in Ireland, and 3 or 4 letters back and forth were all about the peace rose that my grandfather had just planted. So another rose that has great sentimental significance for me. Remember we saw some borage back there, the beautiful blue borage, which is edible, by the way. We can use both the leaves and the flowers. Has a little bit of a cucumber taste. It's really nice. This is a white version of it, white borage. I planted 1 white borage in this corner maybe 2-3 years ago. Oh, look, there's a bee. And it has spread in a really delightful way. I like how it's climbing in among this rose that I've got over here. Look at that one. The rose is there and the borage is even bigger than it. So this year I've decided, because the birds kept eating all of my greens, I created this thing, which was that greenhouse that I used to have over that way, covered it in bird netting, and this is where I grow my greens. And as you can see, there's not one single bird nibble anywhere. So I'm going to be filling this up with all the things that birds love to eat so that I can finally get some salads and, you know, kale and stir fries out of my garden. Remember I was doing those potatoes a few weeks ago in the container? Well, I've already topped it up 1 time. You can see right here, the potato foliage is pushed up. Pretty soon it's going to be time to unroll this and top it up yet again. Something I wanted to point out to you though, I live out in the countryside and this is bird netting. It's soft, definitely keeps the birds out, but for some reason a deer decided to jump right through and created a massive hole here. So I have wrapped some chicken wire in here for now. I'm going to have to replace a lot of this bird netting with chicken wire instead. I'm going to go for the smaller gauge though, because, you know, a little sparrow or something could definitely get through the regular chicken wire. So yeah, it's an experiment, and sometimes your first thoughts don't always work out, but you know, try and try again. Okay, so I gave in. I couldn't resist it for 1 more second, and I did plant an early girl tomato in this pot up here because I just couldn't wait 1 more second for that tomato foliage and all the rest of it. But as you can see from the purple foliage, it's still really too cold for a tomato. It is not very happy yet, and I don't know how it's going to work out. But it's an experiment just like everything else. This is my grapefruit tree. I just, you know, I am so proud of this little creature for producing me any grapefruits at all. I planted it maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and last year I had 1 grapefruit, and it was so delicious, and I was so excited I almost threw a party. But here we go. This year there are 8 or 9 grapefruits on it in all these clusters, and I keep an eye on them and check them every day, and this one's almost ready to pick. And there's blossoms as well, so I know it's going to give me a whole bunch more next year. Part of my whole forage gardening, chaos gardening. And they do like full sun, regular water, and regular feeding. I've been great on the water and the feeding. The full sun, this coprosma grew up and kind of covered it a little bit. It's not getting full sun, but it is so productive this year. I'm thinking maybe that's exactly what it needed. And here is Jasmine. Pink buds open up to beautiful white, incredibly fragrant flowers. I have this dotted around my garden here and there, and right now is the time when it does its most prolific blooming. But it does bloom throughout the year here and there, especially if you give it a little bit of a tidy up and prune back. This one is a variety called Papita. Honestly, I don't see much of a difference between it and the original, except that maybe The flower length, the little flower stalk's a little bit longer. The fragrance is amazing, and I have it right here at the entrance so that when I come through, you know, it's real simple to stop and smell the fragrance. Speaking of fragrance, over here is my Meyer lemon. You can see a ton of blossoms and buds on it right now, which for me is a reminder to feed it. I am going to be feeding this beautiful little plant this weekend. Here's another one of my David Austins. It's a Cardigan Mill. I have it on an obelisk in there, one of those large obelisks that's about 7 feet tall. You can't even see it because this Cardigan Mill has completely smothered it, and it's full of buds, no color on it yet, but in 2 to 3 weeks, it's going to just explode. I wanted to show you this Asian pear that I have up here. It's been struggling for years. Just Asian pears can get fire blight very easily, and it has done. And the advice for fire blight is, and fire blight, let me describe that to you. It looks like somebody took a blowtorch to the end of your pear tree's branches, or your Asian pear's branches. So the advice on that is cut 8 inches back from where you see the symptoms of the fire blight. So this tree is the wonkiest looking tree. There are just dead branches here and there. It's a very strangely pruned looking tree, but it's because it's had fire blight. It seems to be pushing through. The foliage is so healthy. The blooms are really amazing. And I don't think there's anybody in that nest box, but if there is, we'll talk quieter. But it's almost an ornamental tree. Like, people need to grow fruit trees more as ornamentals. You get fruit as well, but it's a super pretty tree, despite being pruned so oddly. Let's just stop and look at this Echium for a second. This is different from the Tagenasti that I showed you earlier. This tends to throw up a single spike, and it's pink. I may have planted Tower of Jewels in my garden many years ago. It's not a pure Tower of Jewels, and it's not your regular Echium, but it appears to be a hybrid that generated itself in my garden. Whatever it is, I really like it. See this pretty plant? I saw this plant for the first time in Bolinas 25 years ago, and I just was amazed by the succulent looking foliage, the colors. I mean, it's iridescent, sort of blue-green, and then the blooms are really pretty. And it's another one of those plants that the bees really like. It's called blue honeywort, or Cerinthe major, and like a lot of other of my favorites, it self-seeds, so minimal amount of work. And next thing you know, there's another one popping up somewhere. Well, I found this petunia that seems to complement it perfectly, and I tested out one to see if I liked the way it looks together, and I do. So I'm going to get a whole bunch more. It's a strange looking petunia to balance out a strange looking annual. I really like the way it turned out. Thank you so much for watching all the way. I had so much fun sharing my garden with you. Everybody's garden is different. What delights you is what's really important. You know, do you like order? Do you like mayhem? What is it that makes you happy? What makes you smile when you go out to your garden? Obviously chaos and blooms and pollinators and hummingbirds and just feeling overwhelmed by the beauty. That's really important to me. So much fun to share it with you. I hope you liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. All the different blooms that I had to share with you here at the end of April. And if you liked it, make sure you press that like button, share it with some friends, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and follow along on Facebook and Instagram. Drop me a comment if you have any questions about any of the plants that I shared with you today, or what to do about aphids, or what I'm going to do next in this garden. And see you next time. Happy gardening!